All right, everybody, welcome back to Thinking Outside the Bank, where we talk about everything from creative finance, creative real estate, but also thinking creatively when life throws you challenges. So today, my guest is the one and only Mandy Konecki. So thank you for coming all the way down from Jacksonville to meet in person and do this podcast with us.
Yes, thanks for having me. I'm super excited for this opportunity.
Absolutely, absolutely. So I always like to start off and let you do a little bit of an intro rather than me tell all of our guests and listeners about you. You and I obviously have a good friendship, good working relationship. We do a handful of deals together. You introduced me to my partner, which we'll get into on the podcast. But tell us a little bit about about yourself and your journey.
Sure. I am Mandy Konecki. As mentioned, I live in Jacksonville, Florida. I've been there about 20 years. Started my real estate realm around the 2017 time frame by buying a fix and flip blind, and then moved into buy and holds, lending, and now assisted living facilities.
Cool. So you said blind, so you haven't regained your sight since then, right? Correct?
Good. I bought the house sight unseen.
Okay.
So.
Gotcha. For all of those not listening out there without real estate knowledge, blind is sight unseen without having seen or walked the property. So I am a past healthcare professional. So when you say blind to me, it's like, oh, I've got a patient coming in that I'm going to have to work with a little bit differently here. So
Yeah, well, I could use that as an excuse elsewhere, but unfortunately that wasn't the case.
Awesome. So started your real estate journey in 2017. Tell me about Mandy prior to 2017. I want to dig into a little bit of previous life and kind of ultimately what led you to real estate.
Sure. I am from Ohio. My dad has done a little bit of real estate back in the day, and then my grandfather had like 4 rentals, so they weren't super into real estate, but they did it on the side here and there to make a couple extra dollars or tax deductions, or maybe they were bored. I'm not really sure why they did it because I wasn't involved. Moved down to Florida. After that, went to college for logistics, and I ended up working for a seafood distributor. So we imported from, I think, 28 different countries and then distributed all out through the nation. I was the national sales regional manager for that. Absolutely loved that job. Got to travel all over the place. Saw a lot of things. I'm a total foodie, so it really matched my energy, being able to go out and sell seafood and go to different food shows and match up my recipes with other people's recipes and things. But what I really transitioned into the real estate realm is when I met my husband. He was also from Ohio, but he was down in Florida working for a government contract. And he was here with someone that I went to high school with that I hadn't kept in contact with for probably over a decade. He wanted to stay in Florida because he got caught in the web, but the markets are a lot different for the union jobs than what he had been used to in his career for the past 20 years. So we were exploring other options and different business entities that he was looking at doing, and like starting a power washing company and this company and that. And he's extremely handy and has a mechanical background, pipe fitter, welder, electrician by trade, and always wanted to get into real estate. I had a lot of equity in the primary home that I had, so I took out a home equity line of credit and bought a house sight unseen when he was working out of town, as an excuse for him to stay in Florida and have something to do. And it all snowballed from here, and now we're both full-time real estate investors and work 24 hours a day, 7 days a week.
There you go.
We traded in the 9 to 5 to work 7 days a week.
I love that. And I don't think I had heard that fix and flip story. And I have a very similar story where my wife bought our primary home that we live in currently the exact same way. We were in the market. We were looking for houses here in Orlando back in 2017. Her mother was our realtor. So we're going around, and I knew pretty much after I got off the job, I'm a physical therapist, so was working full-time PT at that time. I knew that I could almost always count we were going to go walk a house. We've been doing it for about a month and a half, and that day she sends me this listing. It was like, hey, meet me here after work. I was like, okay, great. Show up, walk the house. I hated it. From the very beginning, I hated it. I walked up. I didn't like the color on the outside. And this is before I knew anything about real estate. Full-time healthcare professional. I didn't even think, it's a huge cost to repaint. Like, no, I want it how I want it, and I want to move in just like that. I don't have to do anything. I am not particularly handy as far as that goes. I'll figure it out. But we walked the house, and I'm like, so what do you think? Her and her mom were both like, yeah, what do you think? I'm like, yeah, I don't like it. We'll find the next one. Like this one, And they're like, wait, what don't you like about it? And they really started digging in. And I come to find out she'd already made an offer on the house earlier that day. Because a lot of the houses at that time in 2017, a lot of the houses were moving quick. One of the houses we saw that day had like 25 offers.
Oh,
And we
man.
asked above asking, and it was gone. So they were, in their mind, they're like, we have to move quick. I was so mad. And it's still a house we live in today, and I love it. So I love that I had never heard that story from you,
Oh, that's awesome.
of kind of how you got your start in real estate. So how did that first flip go?
Oh, it actually went well. So, like I said, I bought it when Keith was out of town, and I was also 8 months pregnant. I'm just a doer.
Yeah.
So if someone says they want to do it, I'm like, all right, let's do it. It's booked. If you want to go on a trip, all right, I'm booking it tonight. Kind of thing.
Yeah.
And I sent it to him. He approved, bought it. He came back and walked it and was very shocked at the condition. And then I had to admit that I actually hadn't seen the property before either because, as I said earlier, I bought it blind, which I meant I hadn't walked it before. Fortunately, he's very handy, and we were able to make it work. It was a previous flood house with a pool that had an alligator living in the pool as well.
Good.
So that was a nice little bonus. Didn't have to
Good.
pay extra for that.
Welcome to Florida.
Right. So it took a little bit longer than we anticipated. Fortunately for us, though, the market continued to rise at that point, so we were still able to make a good return on that. So we learned a lot and still made a profit. It probably took a little less than 12 months to finish. We paid $60,000 for it. And at this time, I thought I was buying it from a friend. So this is another thing I learned. When she posted it on social media, which is Facebook, and I told her I'd buy it. She was a realtor. We get to the closing table, and I sign the paperwork, and I see this line on the HUD, and it showed $15,000 to her agency. I was livid. I thought she was robbing me of $15,000 and didn't tell me. A little bit further down in my line of experience, I realized she was wholesaling the property, and I'd never heard of wholesaling, and that's how she was making her money, as like a finder's fee. And I'm not mad at her anymore.
It's good. It's good.
But lots of lessons learned on that entire project that just snowballed into all the next ones that we did.
That's great. That's great. So you learned lots of lessons from that first project, it sounds like. And as you were familiar with, that's how I kind of got my start into more residential real estate out of lending. That's where I started. Because you actually connected me with my current partner, Robert Zaghetti.
I know. I love that. I'm not even sure how you were referred to me.
So you and I had met actually through Ryan Schroep's funding group.
Oh, okay.
We had done a one-on-one previously that week. I reached out to somebody on social media, on Facebook as well, about lending, seeing if they needed lending. They didn't. They needed help selling their mother-in-law's house. Mother-in-law
Okay.
was going through a rather ugly divorce after a long marriage and just wanted out. And I was like, oh crap, I've underwritten properties, but I've never done this. Like and I'm just like you. I'm a doer. If somebody puts something in front of me and is like, hey, we're doing this, we're going on this trip, great. I will plan it, let's do it. So I was like, you know what? Why am I shying away from this? I'm finally starting to take some action. I'm doing some lending, some transactional funding. Let's figure this out. So I'm like, all right, I'm underwriting. And then I was confident that I was like, all right, I've asked another couple people some instructions and some asks of is this a decent deal? Somebody's like, if you can get it for this, it's a good deal. I offered under that and got pretty close to that. And I was like, oh crap, before I get this actually under contract, I need somebody who's done this before. Like I can't carry this out on my own. So I reached out to you because I remember you said you were in Jacksonville. I knew Palm Coast. I knew it wasn't that far. And you said on occasion you'll do some other deals. So I'm like, maybe she can help me. Even if nothing else, we can split the wholesale fee, whatever. And I remember you reached back out to me at the end of the day and were like, hey, I don't have time to do this right now, but I have somebody in Palm Coast that I know really well and I trust. And that's when you connected me with Robert, and I talked to them
Absolutely.
later that night.
I know, it was awesome. I remember the conversation and us talking about it, and I also remember being so, I don't want to say underwhelmed or overwhelmed with all the projects I had going on, and I knew it was a great one, but it wasn't close enough for
Yeah.
me to do that. And I was so excited to be able to refer that to Robert because him and
amazing.
we've had a long relationship. I've known him well, and he's such a great person. And when you guys hit it off and
Yeah.
tackled that project and then snowballed your relationship into all these other projects, it makes my heart so happy. I absolutely love
Mine as
seeing
well.
everything you guys are doing.
Well, thank you. Yeah, I would not be here without you and without him because you led me to him. And I've been working with him close to a year now since our first projects went underway, and we've done a handful of others. And looking at kind of scaling that into more fix and flip as well as co-living now too.
It all goes full circle.
It does.
And that
It
just
does.
goes to people ask all the time, like they think they have to do everything alone. I'm like, you don't do anything alone. There's nothing in life that you have ever done alone, and you don't go anywhere. The journey's so much more fun if you can do it with people you like, and it doesn't feel like a job.
Yeah, I agree, and that's kind of almost the premise for this podcast. When I talk about thinking outside the bank, everybody goes, "Okay, what does that mean?" You think of thinking outside the box, especially within our community. You think of creative real estate. So I kind of merged the two together.
I love
Because
that.
in my life, I've had quite a few instances of where I've had to get very creative, whether it's in physical therapy, whether it's in real estate, whether it's pivoting from a full-time W-2 to real estate, to lending, to those kinds of things, or to, again, to marriage. As you know,
100%.
everyday challenges, not just in real estate, but we talk about this life that we live with kids and with a husband, for you, for a wife, for me. There's other things that come in. It's not just all work all the time. So one of the questions I want to kind of lead in and ask you about, obviously, is your shift from your W-2 to full-time real estate. But think of an opportunity or an instance in your life, especially around kids. That's where mine always goes to, where you've had to, life may not, didn't necessarily make you lemonades when it dealt you lemons. It may have given you lemons and then all of a sudden it gave you grape soda. Where's a time you had to get really creative and think outside the box or outside the bank to still accomplish a goal when, again, when life threw you as challenges?
Oh man, there's so many challenges and there's so many opportunities and goals. I feel like everything's creative because there's not one single thing that is all black and white or anything that ever goes as
Yeah.
planned.
Can I say that I love that you said challenges, but also opportunities?
Yes.
Because I think a lot of people, especially those who think creatively, don't always think of a challenge or a difficulty as a challenge or a difficulty. It's like it's an opportunity to collaborate maybe with people that you haven't collaborated with before, or think a different way than you haven't thought before, or use a different strategy, use a different lender, use a different, relationship that you've created over the years to really, again, solve that problem. And I'm going to steal from Pace. Pace always says, the bigger the problem, the more the reward. The bigger the problems you're solving, the better you're doing in life. Because again, if you're solving that same old problem, which, not to go back to my W-2, I was doing that every day. I met somebody after knee surgery, solving that same problem. They want to get back to walking again. Great. And that was admirable. And I love it. I still love it to this day. But I'm a doer just like you. I wanted to solve bigger problems. I wanted to do more things. If my mind wasn't constantly on solving somebody else's problem or my own, I was getting bored.
Oh yeah.
So that was kind of how my W-2 kind of shifted.
The
But
same thing. And I think I am scared to get bored. I've never really been bored, but I think that's one of my biggest fears, and that's probably why I keep stacking my plate so high. So the one that I would probably use for this story is a house that we were just kicking off our wholesale team. And I think the team got a little excited about our first deal coming in, and it was in South Florida, and they didn't end up wanting to wholesale it. They were so excited about the margins and the opportunity and the property that they wanted to take it down as a flip, even though it wasn't in our market. We didn't have contractors. We didn't have any of that. And me being a doer, I was like, sure, if that's what you guys really want to do, sure. I really didn't want to, but I also don't say no. That's one of my least favorite words.
Yeah.
Like, I don't like to hear it. I don't like to say it. I think anything's possible. So we took that down. Hired a contractor that was less than subpar. He ended up being a fraudster and stealing a lot of money from us. We've had the property for a really long time. It ended up being in a flood zone. So lots of things went wrong with that. The ideal dream of how this property was going to work out is that it was on 5 lots and it was in a corner. So we were going to purchase the entire thing, split off 3 of the lots, sell the lot, and then clean the house out, and then sell it to another rehabber. So we did all that, sold the lot, worked out great. We had a $400,000 private money loan on that, sold the lot for $80,000 and put it right towards the loan. So we only owed $300 on this property. We thought we were going to be able to sell it for like $350, and it sat on the market for about 4 or 5 months. At that point, we were like, well, here's our first pivot. We decided to rehab it, and that's when the contractor came in. So this is our second pivot because now he has stolen a lot of money from us. It's already been sitting on the market for a really long time. So right now we are in the process of refinancing that and brought in another partner that is going to be an equity partner, and we're turning that into a residential assisted living facility.
Awesome.
So that story is juicy because it had a couple different pivots, and the original plan was great. We were going to be in and out with really light rehab. We were just going to take, it actually took about 8 to 10 dumpsters to get that house empty, and then we put primer on the walls.
Wow.
Just so you walk in and it had a white feel, and people could come in and do their vision. But here we are, fully renovated house. But again, I think everything always works out. I'm super excited to turn this into our little Golden Girls Sassy Senior living facility, and then really ended up keeping it. And the property's perfect for that concept. But back when we bought it, I didn't even know that was a thing. But as our business gravitated, and that's where we focused our attention, it's actually the perfect property for that.
That's really cool. And I like how you had this perfect vision, you had this perfect goal. Everything's going to work out exactly how. How often in real estate would you share that you have that perfect vision, that perfect goal? How often does that come to fruition before you have to pivot? Most of your deals or not many?
I would say nothing has ever once gone exactly how it's supposed to, but that's just life in general. Yeah. You paint this beautiful picture and your expectations, and then somebody comes in and you're running 5 minutes late, and now it messes up your whole thing. So I try not to actually do a huge plan. I like to have an idea and a concept and then be able to grasp of what's actually happening. But for a general purpose, I'd say 75% of the time it does go as planned. Things come up, their timelines might be extended, money might be a little bit higher than you expected for your rehab cost or your holding cost. Days on market might be longer, but I also am more conservative, and I like to build in extra time frame and budgets because I like to be more surprised than culturally shocked and disappointed.
Of course.
So I always kind of shoot for have the floor, and then I want to exceed that.
That's good. Mm-hmm. That's good. And that's a skill that I've had to learn as well. I like to have things scheduled. I like to go by the schedule, and I used to get very flustered and deterred anytime things would go off of that schedule, which is interesting. If you talk to my wife, I'm not usually on time. That's my family's known as Hicks time. That's, everybody's on Hicks time. We stand around, we wait until we were on time, until now we've stood around this circle and now everybody's 20 minutes late. And it's just like, and I met my wife and she's like, if you're not 10 minutes early, you're being disrespectful. So I've kind of, I think, had a healthy mix of that to where now I'm like, all right, at least I plan ahead enough. I schedule enough in between time. I used to be like, I have an appointment from 8 to 8:30 and I'll schedule another one 8:30 to 9, and no time to go to the bathroom, get food, check on the kids, do anything like that. And it's like, I got to give myself a little bit of leeway and schedule a little smarter as far as, thinking creatively around that too. So I like that you kind of threw that in, and I've learned to kind of go with the flow a little bit more as well.
Well, it's funny because you're in healthcare, and I feel like that's never on time. And you have an 8 o'clock appointment, and of course it's always the 8 o'clock appointment that shows up late, and it's a domino effect for the rest of the day. And then every single appointment from there on is late.
Yeah. And so healthcare background, you were exactly right. So I did a lot of PT for the last 11, 12 years. I started off in a hospital where it was like, here's your patients you need to see for the day. You could see them anytime. Some of them you needed to see twice if they had just had a knee surgery, hip surgery, back surgery, or whatever. So you had to see them in the morning, you had to see them in the afternoon. But I loved that job, honestly, because it gave me the most freedom. I would show up at 7 in the morning. This was before kids. We were just about to get married. I would show up at 7 in the morning. I would get all my notes done, have my prep done the first 30, 45 minutes, and then I would go knock out patients left and right, as many as I could do before lunch. And then I would do lunch, and I'd take notes, and I'd wrap up whatever I had to do. Sometimes you go to a person's room, and they're just getting dressed, or they're not awake, or they're not feeling well, or they had a procedure. Then I transitioned to outpatient, where it was, you have an 8 o'clock appointment. The next person has an 8:30. The next person has a 9 o'clock. So you're exactly right. You wanted to still see that person, and I'm the type of person, if they show up that day, I'm going to find a way to see them. Even if they show up at 6 p.m. when I'm about to leave and they had an 8 o'clock appointment, it's like, can you please fit me in? Johnny had soccer practice. Johnny was home sick today. You find a way to fit that in, but it was ideally supposed to be a little bit more structured of what time you came. So it was, but yeah, that domino effect, it did. And that was a learning experience in my mind too, of how do you pivot how do you still not let that unravel the entire rest of your day? Because I used to have that mindset too of like, oh my gosh, everything has to go A, B, C, D. If it doesn't, and B comes before A, I can't keep track. And it's definitely a skill. And I feel like a skill as an entrepreneur I've had to learn, and I'm sure you have as well, transitioning from that W-2 into now full-time real estate, correct?
Yeah, it's full-time adaptation.
Okay, I like that. I like that. So not real estate, not entrepreneur, but adaptation. So describe to me, A, why you would call that adaptation, and I think it's kind of pretty clear, but also the transition from full-time W-2, you said you were doing things in the seafood import-export business, to full-time real estate. How was that transition? And yeah, what were some things you had to kind of think outside the box of to transition that lifestyle with kids, with a family? You know?
Yeah. Well, the transition was actually a little bit difficult. I think it's a little bit difficult to transition for a woman anyway. So I got married when I was 30. So just thinking of that. So I had already built up a full identity. I had a career, a house, a million frequent flyer things. Like I had my name established, who I was, what I did, a whole friend zone. Then I had to reinvent myself when I changed my name and that whole thing. And it was the same by leaving my W-2. I had built up my career. I'd been working on that for 13 years. I had an identity, where I was going. I started from being an assistant and then managing a couple million, probably close to $1 billion incomes, or not incomes, projects and contracts. And then deciding to leave that and going to work for myself, and I was alone. And I was like, where is my crew? Everything I've worked for, and now I'm shuffling all this paperwork and doing all these things. I want to say by myself. I was obviously working with people, but then I was physically working alone in the house. And it's really hard being a people person and being around people all the time and on the phone, traveling, selling this.
Yeah.
So it was a weird shift. And then just getting back out there and meeting different people and networking and all the different networking events and masterminds and different partners. And then it was kind of like starting over because it was a different industry and different relationships, different people, who knows what, do I know what I'm doing? Do they know what they're doing? Kind of thing. But that was the most beautiful part of it too.
Yeah.
It's because it's all about the people, who you get to work with, who you get to learn with, who you get to share experiences with. And the perfect partnership is somebody who has money, somebody has experience, and somebody has a deal.
Yeah.
So everybody's bringing something different to the table, and all three people get to learn from each other.
Love that.
So they're still providing, but they're also learning. So that's been the most exciting part.
So would one call you a lifelong learner?
100%. I know I said earlier that I don't know what bored feels like, but that's why I continue to do different things. Like, okay, I've been doing this for a long time. What's next? Yep. All right. Yeah, I've been doing that for forever. I got this systemized. Oh yeah, let's do that. Oh, that's exciting. Let's do that. And I feel like it'll always be that way.
I can relate, and I can also say I can commiserate with you on that as well, because I'm the same way. I've been doing this for a long time. Okay, what's next? What else can I learn? What else? That's on kind of autopilot. I could do that in my sleep. And again, I still kind of go back to PT 1 or 2 days a week because I love that. I worked hard for that. But I also know that it doesn't take a whole lot of my mental thought process to go and do and to keep people safe. And, I did that for 10 plus years. Now transitioning into working at home, I'm facing a lot of those same, I call it difficulties, because I loved at first, I transitioned out of full-time PT care into a director role. I could work from home a day or two a week or had some time in my office. And I love that freedom, but also I hate being alone. I hate sitting there in my office. And when I say alone, especially we're in summertime right now, you know what I'm talking about is two little humans running up to you constantly when you're on a meeting or a Zoom or a podcast or whatever it may be, going, hey, mom's home, dad's home, it's time to play. Like, because that's the old thing that they used to relate us to, right? Is if mom or dad was home and they're not at work, it all lies on us. That's all they know. So I wanted to kind of relate to you of how you balance that family life, home life, with now this work adaptation life.
I really just integrate everything. So there's no separation. We didn't do summer school, or we didn't do summer camps, so the kids have been home all summer. And I was a little bit nervous about it because I do still have a full workload, and
Yeah.
I'm not in the position right now to just completely tap out for the entire summer and just be the fun mom. But still, I want to be the fun mom, and I want them to know that I'm there for them, and they're the number one priority, and I'm not ignoring them the whole time that I'm quote quote working because I am home. So it's just like a full integration. I have moved my office out to the pool, so they can have breakfast. We all sit together. They understand what I do at this point. When I'm on a Zoom, they'll come and they'll wave, and it doesn't bother me at all because they're part of my life.
Yep.
I'm like, they're not
Yep.
interrupting anything, and I want everyone to know. I was like,
Of
hey,
course.
yeah, these are my kids. They said hi, and then we keep our conversation. And I
Yep.
feel like we're at that day and age now where people respect that, and it's not, hey, you're supposed to be wearing heels and a black
Yeah.
tuxedo and all these things. Like, we
Those
can
days
wear
are gone.
jeans,
Yeah.
yeah, you can wear whatever, and people work with people now,
Yeah.
not people work with this image of who
Correct.
you're
What you
supposed
should
to be. They go to properties with us. They go to Home Depot. They pick up all the things. I actually got a picture today that my daughter, she's 7, is making a YouTube video. So I guess she's picking up on that stuff too.
There you go. They follow everything that we do, and they're sponges at this age. I also have a 7-year-old daughter, who went to a fix and flip property that we were walking as well, and just loved how big the living room was, and decided to show me how much she loved it. She was seeing how many cartwheels she could do in a row from one end to the other, and I'm like, this is awesome that I get to do this with the people that I love. And again, like you said, integrate it. Whereas before, I used to love any day. I used to beg my wife to come over during the summer and have lunch with me at my work so that I could show my kids what I did during the day. And it wasn't like, I always wanted to merge those two worlds. So truthfully, I think that's what I love most about this is I have friends, I have colleagues. A lot of time those blend together. Today's a perfect
Absolutely.
example of two in the same room that have met my family, have met my kids, have gone rock climbing with my kids, have gone out to meetups with them. It's a beautiful meld of all of those, and I like how you've integrated that as well.
Absolutely. I mean, a lot of the people we hang out with are in somewhat of the industry too, and all raising families together. We go to each other's birthday parties or the beach or, like you said, networking events, and we all bring our kids. The kids play together. We talk shop. We talk not shop. And it's amazing
Yeah.
because we have relationships with the people we're doing business with,
Yep.
and our families are doing the thing. So we're all like actually living the life
Oh, absolutely.
together.
And I'm going to go back to something you just mentioned about summer camp. Something that we instituted in our house this year because I had lost my W-2 last year, and we're like, oh, do we send him to summer camp? Do we do this? You're familiar with Owners Club. We're co-members in that together. And one of the biggest reasons that I actually opted to do that, because in my mind, we had kind of said, okay, this summer is going to be almost an entrepreneurial summer camp. I'm going to take my kids to walk houses with me. I'm going to take them to meetings. They're going to see me on podcasts and Zooms and all of these things. I want them to meet the people and the partners that I'm working with. So when Pace announced, going to Monterey during the summer, I want you to bring your kids. I want you to bring your family, bring your wife. Same thing. We just got back from Monterey as well as Montana. I wanted them to meet these other people and see these other people and see these things and be, again, accustomed to just talking to people. They're just like myself and my wife. They're people. So I told my wife, I said, I want you guys to come with me. She said, are you sure? This is a work thing. I said, think about it this way. When I'm out there and I'm socializing and I'm interacting at these meetups, I'm only one person. If I can clone myself, both of my kids and my wife, now I have 4 people in the room because they're not shy.
Yeah.
They'll go up to people. They'll run up to you. And then all of a sudden it's like, oh, I met your daughter. I met your son. They're talking to me about this. Now I have friends within Owners Club that were DMing me saying, how's Carson? How's his soccer going? Because they met him late night in Monterey, and Carson steals the show and starts talking about soccer. And I'm like, it's so cool now that, again, that we can kind of blend those two together and do these fun things, which is now also work together with
and
our
it's
kids.
authentic because people can actually relate to you as a human now
Yeah.
because they have a family, you have a family, or they see like, oh, he actually does engage with that. And we did that trip last year, and it was absolutely life-changing.
Yeah.
And I want to instill that in both of my children too. And you do not have to do a 9 to 5.
Yeah.
You can build your life and your business however you want. If they decide to take the real estate avenue or not, just becoming an entrepreneur and building the life that they want to build and the flexibility. Like, you can travel and you can make money and you can do business with people that you enjoy hanging out with, and your friends can become business partners, your business partners can be friends. And just being able to think creatively, like you said, and take opportunity where it comes, because there's literally opportunity everywhere. You just have to see it.
I was just going to say, you have to be able to see outside of the box and outside of the bank sometimes to really see those other opportunities. Again, you can travel, you can do all these things. To me, it was entrepreneur was it was kind of that buzzword that I never really knew what it meant until I started digging into it and looking a little bit more. And I like the adaptation because I've always thought I was adaptable and could find other things. But taking our kids and showing them that, what's the old adage when you'd ask somebody, hey, I'm Trevor, nice to meet you. Who are you? And I'm Mandy and I do sales. Everybody always leads with their job title.
Yeah.
And they almost kind of created them. That was their identity. And I was always like, I'm a physical therapist, but I'm a dad, I'm a husband, I love to play soccer. I do all of these other things. So I always felt like, I didn't always lead with that, but now I'm like, oh, well, what do you do? Well, that's a loaded question. How much time do you have?
Right.
Because I've had so many friends and family now. It's like, I can't keep up with you. You guys are traveling. You're doing this. You're doing photography. You're doing real estate. You're doing PT still. I'm like, yeah, we've decided to create the life that we wanted rather than just let the universe kind of bring it to us and kind of, for a lack of better words, be a slave to my W-2.
I absolutely love everything you guys are doing.
Likewise. So I want to go back and kind of lead into our other conversations because we are actually partners on a handful of deals. You introduced me to private money lending. We were in a transactional funding group and community, which is EMD, double close funding, things like that, which we still do a handful of. I know you do as well, but it's not our primary means of active income. But I always hear people talk about private money lending. I've heard you talk about it with your fix and flip of private money lender kind of helping you bring money to the table for rehab and things like that. Talk to me about kind of when you first discovered what private money lending is and kind of how you operationalize it and how you still do that in a day-to-day job as well.
Private money lending actually changed. I think, so I say OPM, other people's money. Those 3 letters have completely changed the way that I've been able to do business. So when we first started, I did everything alone. This was before being in any masterminds, any connections. I didn't have any friends in real estate. So, we kind of were doing it alone. We used our own money, our own tools, our own, I was the deal finder. I was listing the properties, literally everything. We don't need anybody. We can do this. And then it was also that, like, we don't need help. We don't need that. But it was not scalable. So when you're using all of your own money, you always get to the very end of the project and it gets very stressful, paying those last bills, and then you list it and you wait for that buyer and you have a showing and they don't make an offer.
Yeah.
Or even
Stressful.
worse, they do make an offer and then you're super excited to close in 30 days and at day 20 they decide to cancel the contract.
Yep.
And you're starting over. So it was very stressful to do one at a time, but it was glorifying in things. And then people introduced OPM, private money lending, and I was like, no, why would I use other people's money? That's so scary. I'm not asking people for money. I don't ask people for anything. I don't ask for help. I can do this. My mom said I came out of the womb independent. Apparently, I still had that independent feel and lifestyle. And then I started talking to people, and I started lending on their deals. And I was like, yeah, no problem. I'll lend you money. And then I was kind of evaluating that, and I'm like, that's so weird. Why are you so happy and excited, no problem lending other people your money, but you don't want to borrow anybody else's money? So I kind of did like a little shift on that. And after my first couple deals where I did borrow some money from other people, I was able to scale. So I didn't have to do just one deal at a time and wait for it to sell. I could do 2 deals at a time, 3 deals at a time. I could have 5 or 6 flips going on at a time. And I wasn't using my own capital. So I wasn't having that same pinch and the stress factor of being able to do that. But it was really the mind shift that when I started changing my mind shift of actually helping other people. I wasn't begging for other people's money, and I wasn't begging for their help or begging for this. I was providing them a great return on their money. So they might be working 60 hours a week. Some people wanted to get into real estate. They didn't have the time. They didn't have the knowledge. They didn't know this. They had it in a money market making 2 or 3%, and I was able to give them a 12% return. That was backed by an asset.
Yeah.
So it was a real asset, so they had protection. And it's also glorifying because a lot of people love being involved.
Yeah.
So they have a purpose. So they're not just throwing money in a stock market and they don't know who's
Hoping
doing
for the
what
best,
with Joe Schmo down the road is doing something with their money. They actually get to watch the progress and watch me build this property up for another person. So it was really life-changing to just think of that perception. And then I also started thinking about like utilizing a contractor because my husband's very handy. He's an electrician, pipe fitter, welder by trade. So it was also really hard to transition to allowing someone else to do that.
Yeah,
because he's very good too.
Yeah.
He's very particular and things. So it's hard to find someone else that can do the job the same
Up
way
to
that you do.
standards, yeah.
And it's also that, hey, people don't care about your stuff as much as you care about your stuff.
Of course.
So that was another mind shift. And again, scaling, he couldn't do all of these projects solo by himself. But we look at it as the family that we're supporting in that too. So we buy our houses from a real estate agent. We're providing that family
commission.
meals and a lifestyle. And then we pay our contractor, and he has a whole entire team that's providing housing and food for their families. So that's probably about 40 people right there. And then we use a listing agent to sell the house, and that's providing them money. And then we use a private money lender that's providing them money. And then we get whatever's left at the end. And I'm like, that is so amazing that we can impact that many other people's life as well on things that we were already doing, but now we can do it at scale. And it's just so much more glorifying. Like I already loved the flipping houses because I'm like, we don't do anything half. Everything is to a T.
Yeah.
So when we sell a house, we're confident that these new homeowners, a lot of them are first-time home buyers, they're going to have a new roof, new plumbing. Everything's going to be amazing. So when they buy this house, they're not going to have to put $10,000 into it or lose that money. But now we have another purpose, and it's just super exciting.
I love that. And I liked a lot of things that you said in there as far as that was a big mindset shift and change for me. I always thought healthcare was the number one way to help people because I was physically hands-on helping people. And one of my mentors back in healthcare, said, what's your 5-year goal? I said, I want to help as many people as I can and see as many patients as I can. And she said, okay, Trevor, so you've talked about you wanted to be a manager, but you're kind of weary of that because you won't be, treating as much. Now you're managing other people who are treating people. Take the 10,000-foot view and see now all of those people that you're affecting. Say I have 5 PTs underneath me that are seeing 10 patients a day. That's 50 people that I get to touch because of how I interact with them and how I bring them up. Same thing with what you just said was honestly a big mindset shift for me, and I see those parallels now more than ever because I used to look at real estate investing or at real estate as I was either a realtor or I was a home buyer or an investor. I never really knew what an investor was and how I could help people with that. I always thought real estate investors were out to help themselves, and that was it. Mm-hmm. Then I got into this industry, and I met people like you. I met other people that are in this room as well that are sitting or going to listen to this later that changed my perspective on that there are other people out there. There's good and bad people in every single profession out there. You've got to find the good people, which is always something I've been good at. I'm good at kind of feeling out people, that energy of when you meet somebody, whether you're going to want to interact with them, whether you're going to want to continue to do business with them or even relate to them on a personal level. And definitely something that attracted to me about you when we first met was the energy you put out there. It was always just positivity. It was yes, yes, yes. And I started to realize that was that mindset shift of real estate investing could be that same effect on people and affecting them financially. Like you just explained and did so well doing that, it was a big mindset shift.
Absolutely. So I have people still to this day coming to me and they're like, "Oh, you invest in Jacksonville? Do you compete with so-and-so? Oh man, so-and-so is in Jacksonville. They buy houses." And I'm like, you know how many houses are in Jacksonville? Or
A lot.
across the whole entire country,
Yeah.
but specifically in my market. And it was like, I am not competing with anybody.
It's a scarcity mindset.
Yeah. I was like, I have so many great friends that are in the industry, and we all do the same thing and a lot of different things. And I've never once felt that there was competition there.
Yeah.
And they don't feel that way either. Sometimes we throw each other deals. If I can't take it down, they take it down, or vice versa. Or I loan on that property, you take it down together. I'm like, there's enough out there for everybody. But it always cracks me up when people are like, oh, so and so's doing that. I'm like, you think there's one person that's dominating an entire market
Yeah.
anywhere?
It's that scarcity mindset of there's not enough for everybody. And
Yeah.
I've had those thoughts before. I've had partners that have had those thoughts before. And it's just like the pie's big enough for everybody out there. And there's collaboration over competition. Most of those people, again, that are worth their salt or are going to be around for the long term are working with other people or have shared or have learned from somebody else.
Mm-hmm.
Again, one of the other people sitting in this room that I met was all about, I had somebody give me a hand up when I first met them, and now he's doing that and paying it forward. I consider him and you both mentors, where it's just like, if you have that scarcity mindset of everybody's against you, don't share any of the numbers with them. They might, steal the deal. Well, then they probably won't be around long enough to steal the next one. I can promise you that, because word gets around quick. But definitely something that had to be a mindset shift to me as well. So,
Absolutely.
so a little bit more about private money lending. That's something I want to lean on for you, because you actually kind of led me into my first deal, my first private money lending deal. I have a good friend and mentor that had kind of helped understand a little bit of what self-directed IRA was. And if you recall,
Mm-hmm.
you had already connected me with Robert. We were in our first deal, but I really wanted to put my IRA money that I had done some digging and found some things that I didn't quite understand. And I'm not good with things that I don't understand. I'm going to dig until I figure it out. And I realized, it's in this IRA. Okay, it's doing stuff in the market that I don't quite understand. I want to have more control over it. Well, the only advice I got back from my financial advisor was, oh, real estate's risky. I don't know, and for probably a good 2 years, I had gone in and I'd asked, I said, I see the numbers of returns. Is there anywhere I can get a better return? Not that I'm greedy, but obviously I want my money to continue to work for me. So that way, when I'm 60 years old and I'm ready to pull that money out, it's the most that it could possibly be. All I ever got was, real estate's risky. Real estate's risky. And then I heard about a self-directed IRA. Actually, just prior to you and I meeting, a good friend of mine explained it, and I was like, huh. And I was in the middle of trying to transition it over. I don't know if you remember this story, but I was in the middle of transitioning it over, and it was taking a rather lengthy time. And I was transitioning it over because I was going to put it into one of your deals. And I kind of hit a roadblock, and you kind of guided me through that. So for people out there that may not know what a self-directed IRA is, would you explain that, and also how you could put that to work in say, one of your or my real estate deals?
Absolutely. So that is literally one of my favorite ways to utilize other people's money, is a self-directed IRA. I didn't really understand what that was until I had left my W-2 also. So I've always taken advantage of being an employee and having a 4% match of the employer money, because I'm like, that's free
That's
money.
a great money. That's
Yeah.
a great match too in today's
Yes.
age. Yeah.
I was like, so if you don't understand that, that means the employer is offering up to a 4% match on what you contribute to your 401k. So if you contribute 1%, they'll contribute 1%. And they will go up to 4. So you should absolutely be taking advantage of at least putting 4% of your own money in there, because your employer is going to also give you 4% of that money. But I always maxed mine out to whatever the limit was, whether if it was $20,000 a year or $22,000 a year, because it's not taxed before they put it into your 401k. So really, it's actually a small percent. If you're putting 20% in there, if you were going to take that home, you pay taxes on it, it's going to be significantly less.
Yep.
So you cannot touch that until you are of the
59 and a
retirement
half, yep.
age. Yeah, whether it's
Yep.
59 and a half, 60, that it all changes every year.
Yeah.
But when you leave your W-2 or that job, you're able to move that money. So when I left my corporate job, I was able to move my 401k into a self-directed IRA, which meant I had control over it, because I had no idea what was going on with my 401k. I didn't log into it. I didn't pick my stocks or any of that thing. I didn't understand it. So I just let it do what it was doing. But then I moved it over, and I had control over that, which meant I was able to pick the investments that I wanted to be involved in. I had a couple friends that were in the real estate realm here, and they were very experienced, and all they used was private money. They didn't use any hard money, any bank money, or anything. So she was just raising capital from everybody in her network, and she was very successful. She's raised millions of dollars and done hundreds of flips. So I invested in one of her deals and utilized my 401k, or my self-directed IRA. And it was a great return. I don't remember exactly what it was, but standard is about 12%. And again, it wasn't coming out of my piggy bank, so I didn't feel the stress. I didn't feel like it was actually my money. it is my money, but it didn't feel like my money because I can't actually touch it
Physically
until
touch
I'm
it.
in the retirement
Yeah,
age.
got a few years.
Yeah, so a couple years to go. So it was super exciting to get involved in that. And then I was addicted. After that, I was like, oh my gosh, that's the easiest money I've ever made. I don't have to do anything. All I do is fill out a couple forms and I can be funding her deal and I'm watching her transform this house. I'm confident in real estate. I've been doing it for a while and was confident in this person too. So I didn't feel like I was just writing a check on this stock that I didn't know anything about and the market could crash and am I going to get my money back? Is this? Yes, the real estate market can also crash. We've all seen that over the last couple decades. It's a roller coaster, but my thoughts with that is you just don't sell it at that point.
Yeah.
You hold on to it because it's going to come back.
Yeah.
The market won't be low forever.
Yeah.
At least you have a physical asset tied to that.
Yep.
And then also just doing the underwriting. But yeah, I love self-directed IRAs.
Yeah.
I was like, I don't know
I
what
do
else
too.
to say about it right now because I could talk about it for a long time. But it's a great way to get involved in that. You can put, I think the limit this year is like $7,000 of your own money.
Mm-hmm.
But if you can get 12% or plus returns on that money, that you can compound that over a couple
Learning that already.
years.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and you can become a millionaire very quickly.
Yep.
And I consider that a self-made millionaire because you're actually the one choosing your investments
Exactly.
and not the stock market.
Exactly. And that was, I think around that time I started doing some research into self-directed IRA, and I heard a lot of people say they turn this $50,000 or $100,000 IRA into $2-3 million in just a handful of years. Because if you think about that compounding interest, put $100,000 in, you get a 12% return. In a year, that's 112. You keep doing that over and over and over. Or a lot of times, in a lot of these deals, you're getting a flat fee, not necessarily 12% annualized.
Yes.
It's 12% for the length of that period. So if they're done with that flip and sold in 6 months, you could actually turn that over twice in 1 year. It may not be a lot at first, but it's a whole lot more than it was sitting there in my 401k. So that was where that light bulb went off, and I'm like, okay. So by the time, maybe I don't put another single dollar into my IRA, but if I turn this over 2, maybe even 3 times a year consistently, and then all of a sudden those later years when it really starts compounding, I'm learning while I'm earning.
Yes.
So in that perfect instance, you're the perfect example of it. I was kind of lost, and I was waiting on where I had put my money into a separate self-directed IRA company, and I kind of reached out to you and I said, I really want to fund this next deal for you, but I'm kind of stuck. You gave me that out. You gave me your contact. That day I was in touch with them. Within 48 hours, my money was moved into that account and was ready to fund. And you walked me through that first transaction, everything. Again, you kind of held my hand through it all, which ultimately made me feel a lot safer with investing in a project. I was investing in the project. I look at the numbers, but I also invest in the person. That was the biggest thing too, is trust the numbers. But if I don't trust the person, I'm still not going to, the numbers can make all the sense in the world. But again, you're a prime example too. People can run off with your money. Mm-hmm. Contractors can run off with your money. And then even though, the numbers made sense, things go sideways. If I know it's backed by real estate and it's backed by a person that I know, like, and trust, I feel a lot safer that way too. So that definitely helps.
And I love doing deals with people that I know also because I feel like it's a relationship-based, it's a relationship-based industry, but I guess a lot of things are. But the people that you work with do become family. And there's a lot of real estate out there, but it is still a small network. Everybody does know everybody, and I'd say 95% of the people that are in here are friends and good character, like to work with people, will send referrals and work together. But you said people can run off your money. I just wanted to add one tidbit in there for anybody listening. You're not just stroking a check out of your account and just saying, hey, I like that person. They have good integrity, because people with good integrity can still fool you.
Yeah.
Not that I'm going to do that to Trevor over here, but it is backed with a mortgage or deed and a promissory note. So you do still have the protection, and it is recorded at the county, and it's all public record. So anybody that is investing there, that is your protection. That person cannot take your money and then go try to sell that house to someone else, because when they pull title to sell that house, they will pay off your lien before they sell that off. So you will get that money back to you before they get any profits.
The best part about a title company is they're going to run those lien searches, and they're going to come up and make sure that they get payoff statements and contact your lender, because that's usually one of the first things that they contact us for is, hey, I see this lien. I need the contact information for this lender. Let's get this taken care of. So
yes,
definitely a good way to protect yourself as well. Like you said, it's not just stroking a check and here you go.
Yeah, because that's a common question people ask. Like, well, how do I protect my money? I was like, it's all legality. There's all paperwork.
Go through an attorney, go
Yes.
through a title company. And I think the best thing about our self-directed IRA, which is, frustrating now that we're doing more and more deals and we understand it better, but those protections are in place. They need to see a copy of that deed and promissory note to be able to release the funds. Otherwise, there's still that kind of that there's still that intermediary that's kind of assisting you and on your side and kind of looking to make sure the I's are dotted and the T's are crossed. So
Yes.
it's great. It's great. So other than those kinds of private money lending, and let's talk about transactional funding a little bit, because I know that's what a lot of my active income is right now, and I actually get to do that on a day-to-day basis. We text all the time, thankfully for this instance. What is different than private money lending? What would you call transactional funding, and how much do you still do of that?
So transactional is more short term. I consider it less than 30 days. A lot of people will say transactional lending is actually when the money does not leave title. So if you are loaning on EMD, which is the earnest money down, which you have to put that down when you put a contract under contract.
Yeah.
That doesn't really make sense. But
Yeah.
when you sign a contract. When you put it into title company for them to begin their search, they require some sort of earnest money down. Typically, it's 1% of the contract price. Some people negotiate smaller, whether it's $10, $100, or $5,000. But for instance, if a wholesaler if they're brand new, and this is their first contract, a lot of times they will not have the standard $3,000 to put down at a title company. Or if a wholesaler is not brand new and they're doing 10 deals a month, they don't have the $30,000 to put down on all 10 of those contracts. So they will utilize people like us, the transactional funder, to put the earnest money into title. That money is then replaced when they find a buyer. So the buyer is going to take over that contract and purchase the property. They will replace your or our earnest money, and then we get that back. So typically, our money should not be leaving title during a transactional loan. However, when I consider some of the deals that we do transactional where we are lending them, but it's very quick. Sometimes it's 5 days, 10 days, and I think we're doing some that are up to 14. And that's really just to cover like gap funding. So our primary borrower right now is doing volume, which we consider #money moves.
Yes.
So he's moving a lot of properties in and out, whether he's wholesaling, flipping himself, or just full retail. And there's times that he'll be closing on a property and he's going to be netting, let's just say, $100,000 in proceeds. But it's supposed to close on Friday, and he has another project that he's working on, and his contractor needs a draw to pay his contractors or buy more materials on Monday, and he needs $50,000. He can't wait 4 days for that other property to sell. So we will send him money to cover the $50,000, and we use some cross-collateralization. That might throw some people through a loop. But cross-collateralization means that we are tying our contract or our protection to another property that he owns. Typically, it's the next one that he's closing on. So if he's closing on 123 Main Street on Friday, we will put a contract on that, and that's where we're getting paid for. Or we will do one that he has a lot of equity in. If he has a $1 million property and has a $200,000 mortgage on it, we will put our promissory and deed on that property because we know there's a lot of margin and equity in there. And once he wires us the money back in 4 to 5 days, then we do a satisfaction of mortgage, meaning that he paid us back and releases that lien. And so it's a lot more moving parts, but that's also a lot more fluid too. So higher risk is higher reward.
Of course.
So if you want to be more active in it, transactional lending I think it's way more fun.
It is a lot more fun.
Because I like to be the active part.
I do too, and that is still why I think this has been the most fun. Like you said, we interact with him and the broker that brought it to us and each other daily and trying to figure out, okay, he needs this amount by 48 hours. Well, all of our money's out with him. How do we now get other people and bring other people into that to see if they're interested? Mm-hmm. Or how do we pull money together from a separate deal or a separate fund or whatever it may be, or a separate account? Like you said, has been fun. It's been rewarding. So, and I think a lot of people, when they think of lending money, they either think of two things. You think of a loan shark or something like that that's, really gouging people, which there are laws and there are protections out there for people that are lending money. So you can't just gouge somebody with 50% back or whatnot. But they also think it's very risky. You did say something in there, risk versus reward, and that's something, again, another mindset shift in my mind, that I was a W-2 worker for a lot of time, is like, I work really hard for this money. The last thing I want to do is go gamble it away. It's not necessarily a gamble if you're taking a calculated risk and you can see that reward and it's tied to an asset, like you just said. Yeah, it's a piece of paper that is recorded, it's public data, and then people can see if there's a lien on that property. So they can't legally sell it. Tell me about a time maybe a loan didn't go so great that you either had to seek recourse, the loan went into default, or you incurred penalties or whatnot. I don't know if you've been any that you've actually had to foreclose on somebody for them, but I've heard a handful of deals actually in our community that people are lending money maybe where they shouldn't have been because they're novice at it, and the borrower is actually defaulting on the loan, and it's actually quite a bit of a headache because there wasn't a whole lot of equity in that deal to now get their money back.
Unfortunately, that does happen, and I have seen some situations of that. I have not been involved in any of that yet, and knock on wood. I would prefer to not have that experience in life lesson.
Yeah.
But I understand that is that is a risk that I take when I do lend to other people. The people that I typically do my private money lending with and my transactional funding, I have long-term relationships with, and they are doing several deals at once. So when you're doing volume of things, something's going to happen. One of them's not going to make money. If you're doing 100 deals, 99 might make money, 100 won't.
Yeah.
But that's why you're doing volume, because you make 100,000 on this one, you lose 20 on this one, and it balances itself out. But where if you're just doing one deal and you lose, that can really take you out of the game. Yeah. So the people that I'm lending to do have additional deals coming through, and it's all about communication. Like, we have great communication on everybody I'm working with. I totally understand when things happen, and don't really get hung up on how, why, what. It's like, okay, what are we going to do now? Yeah. Do you have to make payments over the next couple months? Do you have a different property? Okay, I'm not going to get paid back tomorrow, but I have 2 other properties that are selling, and I'm going to give you X amount from this one and X amount from this one to make it right. And it's yeah. But having that long-term relationship, and just being able to work with people, because stuff does happen. Car accidents happen. Like, you're nothing is guaranteed.
Yeah.
So just understanding that and being flexible. I'm not saying like, hey, don't worry about that. Like, the contract's not a big deal. I'm not saying that at all. I'm just saying, like, have your mindset where, like, we can work that out.
Yeah.
And however that is.
Yeah. And I think that's a big reason for me and my mindset with lending is not only just about the numbers, but it's about the person. Mm-hmm. It's also about what else are they doing? How else could I seek recourse if something does go wrong? Because like you said, we've all been in projects where things go wrong, and that's a lot of the time where you learn the most. I know, speaking for failures in my life, that's where I've learned the most. It's where I've also had the most personal growth.
100%.
In relationships and in work and finances, all of those things. But if you allow that to just kind of completely derail you, then that's where you're kind of, in my opinion, missing an opportunity for growth and for learning or for thinking outside the box, truly.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, because when everything's great, everything's just great. But when it's not, that's when you're like, oh, I learned this. I won't do that. Okay, now I need protection that. Avoid this. Okay, make sure you underwrite that. You got to double check this, and it sets you up for success in the next one. And then the next one, you're going to learn something different.
Yeah, yeah. So. Kind of taking from that before we wrap up is what's one thing that you could say you've learned from lending, from flipping, from now your assisted living, that you could give as almost a pointer for somebody who's just starting out or thinking about getting into real estate? Where would you suggest them kind of plug into first to start?
So I kind of think that's a 2-part question. But if you want to get into real estate and just start plugging in, attend your local networking events. There's several around every single city and community. There are probably at least one per week. Meet the people that are doing the thing. People want to share. People want to work together. Find someone that you can add value to. Don't go up and say, hey, I want to work with you. Like, what do you have? Everybody has something. Do you have money? Do you have deals? Do you have time? What's your tool? Because time is something that people don't have. Like, maybe you can go knock on doors for people. Maybe someone can always utilize something that you have to offer, and then you get to learn on that as well. But lean on the people. Go meet everybody. What do they need? What are they doing? How can you contribute? How can you add value? Because that's where you're going to gain the most knowledge, the most relationships, and most experience and be able to grow. And then to advise people on where to start with like the lending piece and things on that, I would say find a title company, make a relationship with them, preferably one that has an attorney on deck too, because they can review your paperwork, they can do your lien searches, they know all the legalities and things, especially if you're starting out. They'll be able to walk through that and make sure that your paperwork says what it needs to say. Is it notarized? They can record it, do the deed, the title search, and the liens and documents on that. But having a relationship with a title company is a really good thing to have also.
So if somebody was ready to start to look into this self-directed IRA or lending money, is that are you a good person that they could come to?
Absolutely. DM me, Instagram at The Connection. Would love to work with you guys and help you get your funds over there. Trevor and I have tons of deals that we would love to deploy your funds on and get you involved in real estate.
Exactly. And you rolled perfectly into that. I was going to ask where they could reach you, but you already filled that for them. So yeah, I just want to thank you for coming all the way down from Jacksonville to kind of meet in person and do this. And it has really been a pleasure. I have a feeling probably not the last one we'll do together after another year's worth of this. We'll probably be like, oh man, done a ton more and look what we're into now.
Yeah, I can't wait. Thank you so much.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you guys for tuning in. And until next time, for This is Thinking Outside the Bank.